I see what here, chaps and chappets, Game Chap and Birdie here. Yes, fellows, my word, and I dare say we are now discussing in this update of sorts the timeless debate being PS4 versus Xbox One, you know.
Well, yes, we most certainly are, yes, indeed. PS4 or Xbox One? Well, what would be very important to a lot of people, of course, is the graphics, especially when it comes to the old consoles on the TV.
Well, indeed, by what the systems are capable of pumping out, you know.
Well, exactly. Now, considering that, you first have to look at the CPU. Well, apparently both consoles carry the same number of cores and the same AMD architecture.
Right.
Yes. Now, Xbox raised their speed from 1.6 to 1.75 gigahertz.
That's a bit slow.
Well, yes, well, that's what they did quite recently. And PS4 is rumoured to run around about 1.6 gigs, something like that.
Well, indeed, they will go for it. It was 1.75 for Xbox and 1.6 for PS4. Still a fair way off PC, you know.
Well, most certainly, but nevertheless, contending in the field. Now, the GPU, of course, or the graphics processing unit, is very, very important. Now, both have AMD GPUs, just the same. The Xbox One runs at 853 megahertz, whereas the PS4 runs at 800. But, and there is a big but, the PS4 has more hardware or compute unit chips in it. Actually 18 compared to 12 for the Xbox One. Now what does this mean?
It means that the Xbox has bigger numbers, but it actually underperforms slightly because of the extra chips in the PS4 box, you'll say.
Well, most certainly, those extra chips in the PS4 can carry more muscle, put more punch in, as it were.
Well, indeed, although slightly weaker individually, they are, of course, more powerful overall. Now, what about RAM, old chap?
Well, yes, RAM, the old memory, etc. Well, both have 8 gigs of RAM, shared between the CPU and the GPU in the same way.
All right, okay.
Now, the PS4 sports fast 5,500 megahertz GDDR5 RAM, whereas the Xbox One uses a slower 2133 megahertz DDR3 RAM.
Well, that's a big difference, old boy.
Well, most certainly. Now, both consoles use a 256-bit memory, which gives the PS4 a bandwidth of roughly 176 gigs a second, while the Xbox One gets with just a bandwidth of around 68.2 gigs, so it's quite a bit less.
Well, indeed, old boy, so the PS4 there has over double the memory bandwidth, you know.
Well, it does, but because Microsoft has included 32 megs of special RAM, which sort of works on the CPU, and is very, very fast, it might make up the gap.
Well, we'll have to see. You'll see they have, of course, included ESRAM on the Xbox One videos, which apparently doesn't have to zip around the main board doing the various things it has to do, so therefore it might bridge the gap, but certainly as far as stats are concerned, the PS4 seems to be leagues ahead, you know.
Well, most certainly, but getting back to the man in the streets view, how did it compare with Call of Duty Ghosts? Well, unfortunately, the Xbox One will run it natively at 720, whereas the PS4 will run at 1080p.
Just a moment, videos. This is a next-generation console, and it's running the very famous franchise Call of Duty Ghosts at 720p.
But it upscales it to full HD. That's an upscale, you see.
So it seems, videos, this apparently next-generation system has to upscale a game like Call of Duty Ghosts, which by default is not a particularly demanding game. So if you can only run that at 720p and the PS4 can run that at 1080, what does that tell us, I say?
Well, exactly.
It's not looking very good, old boy.
Well, no, even though they both run at 60 FPS, it does look like the PS4 has got more graphical oomph, as they say.
Well, indeed, one might say that, you know. So indeed, there you go, boy. On the whole, it seems the PS4 is currently far outshining the Xbox. Certainly also, in terms of design and overall looks, the Xbox looks like something of the 80s, you know.
Well, yes, I'd have to agree. It looks like we've delved back into 1980s or something.
Yes, indeed, old boy. Sony Mediamax, old chap.
Yes, but the PS4 looks like super technology.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
Now, apparently, in other news videos, neither of these boxes, however, are going to be backward compatible. That means no PS3 and no standard Xbox 360 games, which is indeed in stark contrast to the Wii U, I might add. But all the same, apparently, if you're feeling particularly lunatic on Monday, I say, you can plug the 360 into the Xbox One and then play the 360 games on the Xbox One with your 360 controller, you'll see, as opposed to plugging your 360 into the... What? I'm confused, I say!
Right, there's another one on the back, and you can plug another plug in, and that plugs into your Betamax, so you can record what you're doing.
Oh, marvellous! It's good thinking, Microsoft.
Yes.
Anyway, videos.
And that plugs out of there into the cooker, I think.
Anyway, so as they say, when the chips are dying, old boy, how much?
Son, I'm not interested in... Tell me how much they are!
As we may recall, videos, the PS3, of course, caused quite a stir back at E3 many years ago, when the CEO said it would cost $599 US. Yes, indeed, I say.
Well, most certainly. Now, the Xbox One comes in at are 430 GBP, Great British Pines.
British Pine, but hold on, that's more than that in dollars, I say.
Well, it most certainly is. In dollars, well, roughly $670.
What the... excuse me, fellows. Yes, right. Anyway. And as for the PS4, old chap?
Well, the PS4 is coming in cheaper. 350 GBP pounds.
Right.
For that. And if you times it up, well, it's roughly 550 US dollars.
Well, great Scott, fellows. Now, of course, those prices are just based on straight balance conversion, so it might well be cheaper for those of you listening from the USA. However, certainly over here in England, we're being stung for 430 sterling for the Xbox, and not too much less than 350 for the PS4, you know.
Well, most certainly, have you got a hammer?
A hammer, old chap?
I need to break every single piggy bank in the entire street, I think.
I think you might do, but anyway, fellows, there you go, a most interesting comparison of sorts.
Well, yes, there's lots of things to consider. Personally, I prefer the Xbox One controller over the PS4, but that's just individual things. Everyone's different, you see.
Well, indeed, and of course, there are the privacy issues that sprung up a few months ago about the Xbox One, so if you're considering that, be careful of those too, you know.
Ha-ha! Don't worry about that, sir. That's all under the water now. We never do anything like that, you can be sure.
There you go, Deborah. No, indeed, well said. Right, fellows,
yes.
There you are, PS4 versus Xbox One. I like PS1, but he seems like the Xbox, you know.
Well, yes, I do, but I like the shape of the PS4 better, and I like the price better.
Well, indeed,
Yes, and it plays in 1080p.
There you go, fellows. Dash along to our Banny forums, place your vote and leave a comment to tell us what you think, you know.
Oh, yes, run along and tell us.
My word, thank you for having joining us, fellows. And we look forward to seeing you once more the next exciting and goodness where. Until then.
Oh, I wonder what happens if you plug the PS4 into the Xbox One.